Welcome back, welcome in, welcome all back to the Like That Pod episode. What are we? Number now 17? Is this 17?
I
16.
wasn't doing the intro, so I didn't even check. I know it's not 15 though.
It's 16.
I also knew we were just at
Happy Sweet
we were just
16,
where we were at.
everybody.
Sweet
Yes,
16 for the
16
pod. We'll
candles.
see it. My name is Brooklyn. Here are my co-hosts Nico and Nick. As always, we are coming at you after Wild Card Weekend, one of the best playoff weekends I have seen in a long time. Not a single one of those games. Most of those games did not disappoint. We struggled a little bit. I struggled a little bit trying to watch the Pats game. I didn't think there was much really happening. As for the Texans, that game didn't implode until the fourth quarter, and even then, I was like about ready to shut it off anyway. But recapping how the week went for us, overall, in the spreadsheet was a not so bad one. For me, outside of the Chargers plus 3.5, and even then, I still thought the Pats probably should be the ones who win it. Me going 5-for-1 in my picks. Again, Carolina, Chicago, Buffalo, San Francisco, and Houston. Nick finished with 3 right on the week, and Nico rounding up to, well, not rounding up, but getting a nice 4 to finish out that week. Guys, how you feeling about Wild Card Weekend? Did it, for the most part, go to your expectations? I know we had a couple games. That Carolina game was crazy close.
I thought this weekend was just so peak football wise. I mean, it having a little bit of bias in the Patriots game. Obviously, I was kind of rooting for it to just be that way, but every single game hit. Like, it was great. They were all like, obviously I wasn't the Rams not covering the spread. Obviously wasn't what I wanted, but at the same time, it was a fantastic game. Like, anything down to the wire. Like, even on paper, the Houston game looks like it was a larger game than it was, but that was close for a while. And while I also got the hot mic here, gotta mention the props too, because shout out Nick here going 6-0 on his props through Wild Card Weekend. That's incredible there. Brooklyn on the other side of it, not I had a good week on the spreadsheet, but went 1-5 on props. And
Love did throw for over 220 yards. So.
And I went 2-3-1. I think that's the third time I've had a prop for the podcast where somebody's gotten hurt. So I picked McCarthy earlier this year, and I believe there was one more. But no, overall it was a sick week of football.
Definitely. And, it had everything to it. It had the big underdog win, the big upset with Philly and San Fran, even though all three of us were very heavy on San Fran going into the game, which we were all very sharp on.
God, we look
obviously,
good.
George Kittle going down, though, that's tough to see, especially with them now going up against the best defense in football. So it's going to be a pretty entertaining game. But, I mean, all the games this weekend were very entertaining from start to finish. Even that Houston game, which was kind of a snooze fest at the first half, but the second half, it really did pick up. And
second
I know
half,
Brooklyn...
the fourth quarter.
fourth quarter picked up. And, I mean, as a Pats fan, biasy and all, I know it was kind of a boring game offensively. But, I mean, it was a nail-biter on my side, watching it on my end, just seeing this offense that has been so dominant have a tough time against that defense, but they were able to pull it out. Justin Herbert really had a tough day, and that D-line showed out. It really did what it was supposed to do, and we'll get into it more as the episode goes on, though. But good weekend of football.
Yeah, recapping this weekend's game, if you somehow managed to not see them, we did have the Rams going into Carolina with a lot of people, especially TikTok, YouTube Shorts community, really backing the Rams there in that minus 10.5 line. Nick, said that when you have Sean McVay as your coach, you can easily clear at least a 10 spread.
I had the public on my side, though.
And hey, I guess we paid the public there, right?
Appreciate it. I would also really quickly, hold on. While we're on the topic of YouTube Shorts, I would like to apologize for my comments. I sincerely apologize for the use of profanity. I was amped up, as any sports fan is at this time of year. It's playoffs, but I will watch my language going forward. I do apologize.
Fair enough. Yeah, Nico, no, I know. I get you saying. You're pausing me there, Nico. I'll let you get into that in just a second. Rams going to Carolina. Keep it. The Panthers keep it a close game, and I mean, damn near almost steal another one at home. The Bears. I mean, every time I kind of doubt Caleb Williams, and I rode with him on the spreadsheet last week. I can't ever say I take the Bears with confidence, but they are one of the more fun teams to watch, in my opinion, because it's always just like a coin flip up until the fourth quarter. Caleb Williams just does some Caleb Williams things. That's not a Mahomes-esque type of thing, but like we're almost creating a new category, Caleb Williams type of plays, right? Just those random late drives where like, how the hell did the Bears come out on top? Josh Allen, better hit the ice bags, man. That took a beating in that Jags game. That was a great game overall for the Bills. It went, I think, exactly to the script, but also kind of off the script in many ways.
What the hell does that mean?
Like, like it was a nail biter. It was down to a field goal at the very end. I don't think we saw as much on Buffalo's side work the way that people were expecting. We thought Kincaid was going to have a much bigger impact on the game. James Cook was expected to do more. But nevertheless, they made it happen by the legs of Josh Allen, not Kincaid, Khalil Shakir hauling in 12 of 12 receptions, didn't crack 100 yards. It's the craziest thing I have seen.
PPR
nevertheless,
merchant.
That defense shows up on the pass game clutch twice. Shaq Thompson, Cole Bishop getting 2 key interceptions. The run game, I think that went exactly as people expected. Jacksonville got hot on the edges. I'll talk about that more because we do have a Bills game coming up later this episode. And then Houston. Well, actually, no, the Chargers. We'll talk about the Chargers real quick. I mean, if I'm Justin Herbert, I'm just like sending like hate mail to my offensive linemen. Like all season, you let me get beat the hell up, and now that it's over, you got nothing to lose. Like, God, I feel bad for him because that's not really a reflection of Herbert in any way. Going down to Houston, then that defense shows up late in the fourth quarter. There was a 7-6 ball game up until the fourth with a strip six, right? Thick six.
Stripped by a
Thick
thick.
It, yeah.
Pick six. Christian Kirk randomly coming off with 144 yards and a touchdown and a pick six just to seal Aaron Rodgers. Maybe the end of Aaron Rodgers' career. Adam Thielen retiring. I think that's the catalyst for Rodgers is Thielen, I guess. But other than that, that's the weekend recap here. Nico does have some interesting statistics for you guys before we jump into this week's games. Nico, go ahead, take it away.
Love that. Very, very structured. You should be doing the intros. I can retire peacefully, but
and I'm just here.
Don't want to burp on the mic again. But yeah, so like I got decent amount of historical data breaking down the wild card and divisional rounds, and I want you guys to hear what I'm saying, and then after that, like, what is it? How does that like? I know we've already made our picks for the week. Granted, if you have a last second change, if this sways it, feel free. But I think this kind of does like create a decent picture in my head of like what we're gonna see in the next couple rounds. So bear with me here, but so one thing just to start off from the regular season, fading the public was the most profitable it's ever been. The public record this year, and public being a ticket, not the money percentage, but 60% of the tickets being placed on one side. The public went 70, 102, and 1, 40.7% against the spread. Meanwhile, in the first round of the playoffs, the public went 5-1, with technically Pittsburgh very late flipping to being a favorite and them losing on Houston. But in going through, I've got some data that goes back this one here since 2003. Divisional round number 1 seeds are 33, 44, and 1 against the spread at a 43% hit rate, 3-7 since 2020. 7+ point favorites, 17, 26, and 1, 40% hit rate there. Teams to win as an underdog in the wild card. That'd be, I think, like I'm kind of blanking if Buffalo closed as dogs before the game, but if they did, they would qualify. But if not, this is Chicago and San Fran. So. But teams to win as an underdog in the wild card, and then in the following round of the playoffs, they are 3-22 straight up and 13-12 against the spread since 2003. Teams on short rest, that being Houston, that being Buffalo, those teams are 6-15 straight up since 2002. Teams with big rest advantages, both Seattle and Denver almost have a full 2 weeks off since their last game, 7-0 straight up since 1984. And teams to play their second consecutive road game, that's going to be the Bills, the 49ers, and the Rams, 32-64 against the spread over the last 20 years.
Very, very good research there, Nico. It's very entertaining stuff.
We do our homework over here.
But what is that?
We
what is that?
do.
Like, it scares me about Buffalo. Like I know that game is so close, but I feel like they have the toughest road ahead of them. I think.
Scares me for
the Rams.
Seattle. Not even. Not necessarily. Only because with that matchup, that Bears defense statistically hasn't been great, and as good as that offense has been, I feel like numbers aside, especially with history aside, with the 3.5 line as low as it is, especially since last week that they were over 10.5 point favorites, I think it favors them.
Like, mind you,
But
oh yeah,
it doesn't. No, I was gonna say it doesn't necessarily concern me.
yeah, because I mean, mind you, like important data to know, but realistically, all these teams, all these records in the past, like they're not the teams that we're seeing this week. But I think it does add to just like the difficulty that I think Buffalo does face.
Hmm.
Listen, man. I knew that like from the minute we played Jacksonville, like that was arguably the hardest matchup we were gonna have just to start this playoffs, right? That was a hot Jags team, and even with the Bills winning that game, every game from there almost like it gets harder because you're playing, I guess the team that makes it this far, but literally it gets so much harder for the Bills just from Jacksonville. You get from good offense, really good defense, and now one of the best defenses in the league. And, if the Texans knock off the Patriots and you're playing the team that buried Josh Allen earlier in the season, but then if they're playing the Pats, you're playing the, possible MVP. And one of the better teams, well, the best team in your division, even. So up until the Super Bowl, up until they get knocked out, or if they win it all, Buffalo's got no, not even arguably, undebatably the hardest road to the Super Bowl. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Patriots could get a couple home games, and then even then, if Buffalo wins, they if New England wins and Buffalo wins, New England played the whole playoffs at home. So
Hmm.
I do agree that.
Not to mention how banged up that Buffalo team is too. Like they're still
Yeah,
winning games, but like you look at that injury report, which
we'll
I know you're
talk
gonna
about
get
that
into in
injury
a
report in a
second, but
moment.
it's deep.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
And even,
pretty
and
deep.
even you saw from Sean McDermott's, if you saw Sean McDermott's like press conference, you heard about it. They were like, "Tell us about the injury reports." That was the press's first first question, and his first thing is like obviously Gabe Davis torn ACL, Tyrell Shavers torn ACL, and he followed up with, of course, Josh is sore. He took a beating that game. He took one of those sacks that he took, or maybe it was after a throw. I forget. But head hits the ground first, and then he just takes a knee straight into the helmet. One of the touchdowns he got in for, knee kind of bent awkwardly. And just overall, like it's just offensively for Buffalo right now, it's kind of wishy washy. They haven't had much time for this turnaround. So, but does that lead us right to it?
So I
yeah,
say we should might as well just segue into it.
Yeah, you don't got to press the button. I kind of think that once we get deeper into these playoffs, it's hard to call something the pick of the week for me.
yeah,
Each one of these games becomes more of a coin
Yeah.
flip, and especially in the AFC, I think for both of these games, it's one where you're looking at the teams and you're like, I really can't definitively say. But we're gonna flash forward here to the Saturday 4:30. One of the best spots to me if you're gonna have national coverage, right? You're the only game happening on a Saturday afternoon. Buffalo at Denver. Um, Quickly for the injuries, obviously playing at Denver is one of the hardest stadiums, but for the injuries for Buffalo, Gabe Davis torn ACL, Tyrell Shavers torn ACL, Jordan Poyer is also going to miss this week. But on the positive side, you had a Matt Prater last week that was able to kick 2 field goals that to me really test that leg if you're wondering if he's healthy. So possibilities now of Buffalo having a fully healthy kicker back. I mean, I'll take that all day. Prater, for the most part, has been very solid for them when he is good. Um, Ed Oliver, practice window has opened, coming officially off the IR, him along with Curtis Samuel, a name that, doesn't really hold much weight, but at the same time, you just lost Gabe Davis and you lost Tyrell Shavers there. With that being said, Kincaid was seen in a boot. McDermott said that was kind of just precautionary, just to keep him protected. Terrell Bernard is questionable, but with Buffalo getting some offensive injuries here, they have a chance to get some major upgrades back on defense there. If Ed Oliver can come back in, we know how much of a force he is, how much of a run stuffer he is, and that kind of just really strengthens that D line. We saw Russo really be a part of just making Trevor Lawrence's life much harder. I wish I saw a little bit more from Bosa, but nevertheless, if Ed Oliver can come back, that defensive line starts to look just a little bit better. For Denver, this is the fourth time in the last 40 years with that the team with the bye is the underdog. But I just want to flash forward just straight into, my points of this game. I think for a lot of Bills fans, each game from Jacksonville to now has been incredibly anxiety provoking. And this one's, not really at all, going to ease many people's minds. It's all just going to come down to how we show up. For the Buffalo side, Josh Allen, they did a great job for, I would say, keeping him relatively clean in terms of the pass protection. That's going to be something that's going to really come into play against this Denver team, one of the best pass rushers in the league. We've seen how effective Nick Bonito has been in terms of, how much Denver loves sack. And this is really just going to be another week where that pass protection has to show up. But overall, Buffalo has a pretty decent pass protection. I think, keeping Josh Allen up and keeping him clean is going to be the biggest focus for them. That defense has really stepped up to me for Buffalo's side. We saw the secondaries really start to pick things up, of course, with Poyer coming out. A lot of things kind of went wrong. We put the backup in there, and it was just kind of a lot of targets thrown towards that direction. It was very, very successful for the Jags. But nevertheless, compared to the first three teams here that rank in offensive EPA, Buffalo is still third. So in terms of this game, a lot of things that I like about it. Josh Allen, coming off of that hot, hitting Khalil Shakir for 12 out of 12 targets, not a single incompletion there. Also, no turnovers. I know we only had one passing touchdown. At the end of the day, you got to play clean football against either the Jags and especially against the Broncos. Biggest thing for Buffalo here, Josh Allen's time to throw last week, around 2.6 seconds. I did a lot of research into this one, looked at a lot of throwing charts, looked at a lot of time to throws from prior Denver games, and teams that have had success against them put up points, teams that have beaten the Broncos, and that's a short list. All those quarterbacks, sub 2.7 time to throw, which means if Buffalo's looking for a chance here to keep that offense kind of looking smart, you're going to need either some quick plays, some plays that don't really go too far past the 5. And if you look at the throwing charts of guys like Marcus Mariota, that Commanders team took him to a 27-26 overtime game. Throws were made either at the line of scrimmage or about 5 yards in. Last thing I'll say for Buffalo, even with those wide receiver injuries, you still got Keon Coleman now. And to me, this is his one chance to kind of show up and show out, his best chance really to prove that he's still worth keeping around. So that's what I got for Buffalo right now. I want to hear what you guys think. I know we're all kind of on the Bills right now, and I'll come back with some Denver stuff in a moment, but I'll give you guys the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been known on this podcast that we're not the biggest fans of Bo Nix in total, and I'm proud to say that I can lead the charge. I know I didn't get the social media flack that Brooklyn did on his post, but I think I can count on my hands how many times Bo Nix has played at an above average rate in his career. And again, like I brought up those stats about the rest and such like that, but Bo Nix as a quarterback he's not great. You're talking about taking down Josh Allen. Like we talk about how the road is tough for him, but Bo Nix overall is 16th in QBR throughout the whole season. If this line, and we've seen it flip a couple times to either Buffalo or Denver, but there have been 4 times in the last 40 years with a team coming off a bye was an underdog, and those 3 instances, they're 3-0 in those games. Most recent one being the 2018 Eagles, and funny enough, one of them being the 1997 Carolina Panthers, which I'd love to see how they bet in 1997. But no, I just don't have faith in Bo Nix in such a large moment. And the Bills, Brooklyn mentions the ads they're getting defensively, but you saw what they did against Jacksonville, and they 24 points. I think you're not so happy about that, but you forced 3 turnovers. So I think Buffalo's trending in the right direction, whereas Bo Nix and that Denver offense, I don't love it.
I'm there with you, and also the fact that out of 17 games this season, Denver had 13 of their wins, all of their wins, decided by differential of 8 points or less. So no double-digit wins this year. A lot of them were from come-behind wins. But we talk about how good this defense is, but this is also a defense that let up 30 points to the Giants. This is the team that got smoked by the Jaguars a few weeks ago. Also, I'm pretty sure the offense dropped 34 points on this Denver defense. And Bo Nix looked rough. He had a hard time getting the football out. And Buffalo's passing defense, I know Brooklyn was very high on it last week, and I kind of toned it down, and boy, was I wrong. They looked really good. They made Trevor Lawrence have to run out of the pocket. Shout out rushing prop. Not only that. I mean, first throw of the drive to go down and try to tie the game, he throws an interception. So I think also the lack of experience Bo Nix has going into it. There's like the bye, the 1 seed, like there's a lot of comfortability if you're Denver, but also at the same, and you're going up against a beat up Buffalo team. But as a Pats fan, I hate to say it, but it's still Josh Allen. They're still gonna find a way to make it work. It's gonna be a close game, if anything. It'll be nitty gritty, but I like Buffalo in this spot. I think if there's a chance for Buffalo to make it all the way, it is without Mahomes and Burrow in the playoffs, and I think Bo Nix is not a big obstacle.
Says all of that wearing a Drake May jersey.
Yeah, well, if they win and the Pats win, next week it's gonna be different. But we'll get there when we get there.
Real quick, I didn't get really a chance to talk about the Denver side, and I'm not going to come at Bo Nix with some sort of hostility. I'm going to recognize that the Broncos are a team that is 14-3, a team that, at the end of the day, especially in the playoffs, like it's just a team that wins the game, right? So while it is alarming, I guess, for the Broncos that you can't really pull off like definite wins, you still win. And Bo Nix, while we kind of drop some shade on him sometimes, I will say he's been an efficient quarterback in terms of completions. He keeps himself pretty clean. He's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in football. I'm not necessarily defending him, but I am going to recognize that this is the first seed in the conference, right? So there's no real way to kind of just like look at that and be like, the Bills are going to win this game. I think the Bills have a great matchup in this game to possibly go against a mid-tier offense. Nothing really on the Denver side really scares me at all. They live off of real short plays, and Bo Nix most of the time I think his average yards per attempt per pass right around 6 yards. So he doesn't typically try to get that ball too far, but that can also be a part of the fact that they play relatively safe. If you watch a Denver game, it's kind of hard to watch the whole thing, right? There's nothing usually too crazy going on.
Why do you think that? Why do you think it's so safe that they're throwing close to the line of scrimmage, and that they're not like a down?
Because at the end of the day, if first downs are going to get you closer to that end zone, like there's no need to, unless there is a wide open deep ball, that there's no need to really force much of massive chunk plays unless you got a guy who's going to be able to consistently lead that throw, and that's like stuff that Trevor Lawrence does very well. So
I
you got anything else for that?
I had an old car, and it on the speedometer said it could hit 80 miles per hour, but the game plan was never to get up to 80 miles per hour.
What?
And
fair enough.
The problem, it's not that it's not in the playbook. It's that sometimes you don't got the engine that you think you have. The Broncos offense is not explosive at all.
I'm not gonna go after Bo Nix too much because while I don't really care what Broncos country has to say, and at the end of the day, like I think that this is a game that two very even matched teams, regardless of record. I think that this is a game that's just going to be decided. It's almost like the Jags game, who's going to show up better. But nothing about the Denver offense is necessarily a massive threat. It's always been their defense all year. Of course, the 1 year I chirped Nix, he has the game of his career against the Packers, right? But that is an offense that rushing wise is about ranked 22nd. So if I'm a Bills fan and I'm worried about my rushing defense, I mean, the way that the Bills get beat is they let things get to the outside edge. So it's going to be really key to kind of keep that pocket real slim, and Bo Nix, of course, not being a guy who gets sacked too often. Well, then you got to keep him in the pocket. You got to have, Rousseau and Bosa making sure that there isn't too much room to escape out. But at the same time, I trust the way that this past defense has been playing. It's looked great so far. Trey White's kind of turned back the clock a little bit, having a great game. And I think the more that he's gotten further from that injury, the more of himself he's kind of getting back. So very confident in the fact that the Bills can make this a game to win. And I don't think that Denver's necessarily going to kill the Bills on the scoreboard, but it's going to be a matter of Buffalo playing clean, playing quick, playing smart, and just not shooting themselves in the foot. Leads me to my prop to watch for this game. I'm going to take one that's in the plus right now. Plus 124 for a Dalton Kincaid over 3.5 reception. The Broncos play a lot of man-to-man. Frankly, I think Surtain is going to be on Shakir, so I'm not really going to take much on Shakir. Not really even going to touch his under because Buffalo runs a ton of screens, short plays like that, where they are going to try to get him the ball a decent amount no matter what. But I am going to go with Kincaid here. I think that every week he kind of gets back into a little bit of a rhythm. He is a focal point of that offense, and he is Josh Allen's number one one target when things are flowing. And if Josh is looking for some of those outlets, like I said last week, it's going to come by way of the tight end. Don't think we're going to see another 12 reception game from Shakir. I think Kincaid's volume is going to pick up. So yeah, over 3.5 receptions for Kincaid, plus 124, plus a Bills I took at -2. I think they win the game, and I'm going to take that over that 1.5 mark.
Rolling with my prop here. We're going with an under. We're saying forget the over. We're fading. We're fading Bo Nix this game. Okay. We're going under 33.5 longest completion. So in case anybody is wondering, that means when he throws the ball, it can't be over 33 yards, or it can't be a catch caught for over 33 yards. It's just a one singular play. You can't parlay it, so it's straight. It's minus 113 on DraftKings. I really like this play. I know we were just talking about how good the Bills defense has showcased, and I mean, yeah, Brooklyn said it himself. I mean, Bo Nix, his yards per average is under 6, almost 6 yards. So I mean, they do play relatively safe. I mean, the only way that I could see this happening is if a large breakaway pass play. But this line has hit consistently the last 8 of 10, I'm pretty sure. And I'm also just have pretty good confidence in this Buffalo pass defense and how much they've been on a roll. And I think with this mid offense, it looks good. Rolling with the hot streak here.
The only way it hits is if there's a large completion.
Yes.
I mean,
the only way
when you say it like that, you've sold me.
34 yards. Yeah. That's the only way it can happen.
I'm going with the game under of 45.5. I know this. I think it opened up at 46. It's already gone down to 45. Where they're projecting a game score of like 23-21 in favor of Denver right now, and I think that I don't think both teams are going to come out of this scoring 20 points. Like, to me, I'm seeing a game score of like 20-17, and hopefully Matt Prater's got that leg because I'm on Buffalo.
It's a Broncos offense that averages 18 points and a Bills offense that averages close to 30. But when you put that defense that allows like 17 against that offense, I think it does get reduced to an under 45.5. So I like that. Josh Allen, man, you're not even comparable to that man Bo Nix. They try to stack up the play styles, but you got Josh Allen at the helm. Anything's possible. Go Bills.
I will say there's other implications to why I don't like Bo Nix, yes, but there's one thing that we're all forgetting if Buffalo wins, and that's that we don't have to watch Denver Broncos offense for the rest of the year.
Yes.
We
don't have to watch the Patriots play in Denver.
I not even throw all biases out the window. I just can't watch more Denver Broncos football, man. It is up there with like having to watch like the Jets, the Titans. Because and the biggest difference is like those teams like the Broncos have like expectations to do good, and then they just fall apart for most of the game, and like Brooklyn says, they find a way to win, but it's ugly every single time.
Bo Nix is leading the league right now in fourth quarter comebacks this year, and that says a lot kind of about their pace of play and how they kind of play for the 3 quarters. And if Denver wants to win here, they can't let it come down to the fourth quarter. I know that's kind of been their thing, but it's the playoffs, man. You got to make a decisive statement. You got to be leading. You got to show that you're the 1 seed over the 6,
Look
right?
At the Packers.
Yeah.
Where does Bo Nix rank in playoff quarterbacks right now? Like out of the 8 that we still have standing.
I put him
6.
Put him 6.
I put him.
It's Josh.
I put him 7th.
It's Josh. It's Josh. It's Stafford. And then to me, it's currently probably gonna go Drake.
Well, if you're going off of this year, man, I don't know if Josh is sitting at the helm.
I'm talking about pure capability as a quarterback. Josh Allen makes things that seem impossible.
Let me say who you're fearful of, who you
I'm scared of Josh Allen more than anything else. If I'm any team, the things that he can kind of will to victory for a team that for this one of the weakest Bills teams that we've seen in the playoffs. I'm scared of whatever Josh Allen can do. That game was a game won by the 1 touchdown of Josh Allen, sure, a couple of field goals from Prater, but otherwise, Josh Allen is a tank. 250 pounds at 6'5". That guy takes so many hits and he just doesn't go down.
So let's go back.
He also is an expert on throwing on the run and kind of making plays in chaos.
So go back to Knicks. Who else is I would put Stroud. Probably Stroud's my number 8 right now. But I'm curious who
Yeah,
else
Stroud, no.
who else you have above or below Bo Nix.
Below Bo Nix, I want to put Caleb. I want to put Caleb at 5.
What? You opened the show saying that he's not even doing Mahomes things. He's doing Caleb Williams things, and then you're like,
That's in a category of its own. I think that Caleb Williams, while his
what
completion
does that
percentage isn't
mean?
necessarily no, I think while his completion percentage isn't necessarily anything to brag about, look at it like he doesn't have the craziest weapons on a wide receiving core either. But the things that he's kind of able to make happen in the times when it counts, puts him close to what I would consider a Bo Nix territory.
So if you wanted a
Both
quarterback,
guys you have to go with.
you wanted a quarterback right now on your playoff team, you're taking Bo Nix ahead of Caleb Williams.
I would say they're almost even, but I would take Caleb.
Bo Nix does not beat the Packers.
I would take Caleb.
No.
I think Caleb has a much
So
higher tendency. What do you mean he doesn't beat the Packers? He did in the regular season.
I'm saying right now, like if you swap places, like if Bo Nix was the quarterback of the Bears and Caleb Williams was the quarterback of the Broncos, like Bo Nix does not beat the Packers.
Am I saying that
Probably
Bo Nix
not.
wouldn't beat the Packers?
Probably not.
I don't know.
I don't
I
think
don't
he
know
does.
because the Packers would still beat up, and I think that the Bears defense obviously has a role to play, but
Yeah,
I
that's
think they're very closely
apples and
ranked.
oranges. That's all apples
Would you
and
take
oranges.
Bo Nix or would you take Brock Purdy?
I would take
Purdy
Brock Purdy.
every day.
Okay.
Bo Nix
enough.
plays safe. I can't complain about Bo
Darnold?
Nix. Bo Nix is I can't. No, Darnold. I don't trust Darnold. I can't trust, or I mean, I can't say anything about Bo Nix really that's like horrible about like the way he plays. I think he's a great quarterback, keeping himself clean. And in the short game, he's an expert, I guess, at those 6-yard passes. And he's kind of shown that in some situations like he's not awful in regards. He's not anything that blows me away.
Well, I hope he gets
Neither
blown
is that
away
entire Broncos offense.
this week.
But
But
spent a lot of time in this Bills game. We move on.
yep.
San Francisco coming into Seattle at a spread of -7, favoring the Seahawks. Going on the spreadsheet here, Nico is the only one, I believe. So my spreadsheet just disappeared.
No,
Nico.
we're all on Seattle.
I was
Nico
back
is the
and
only
forth.
one who is going to San Francisco +7, and in ways I can't fully blame him. I am just so, aware of how good the Seahawks
Oh, you
defense
switched
has
back.
been. And also how good the Seahawks defense has been, but how banged up still this Niners offense is like, in a game that really mattered for that whole conference. I mean, they won by 10, but that clears the 7. And obviously now in a win go home scenario, it's a little bit harder for me to just look at, this Niners team without Kittle now. And just be like, I think that they're still going to have that same volume. Juwan Jennings, sure, very respectable receiver target for them, the guy that they utilize a lot. McCaffrey, obviously, and I almost called him Burrow. McCaffrey and Purdy have been on a roll recently, but going against a Seahawks team that's had this much time to recover, a defense that's been that consistent, it kind of just makes me nervous for San Francisco. I'm willing to take the L on this one, but I think that San Francisco has the capabilities of winning by a touchdown.
Where is your confidence? Where is it? You sound like you're joining me. You could join me.
San Francisco is going to lose this game by at least 7 points. Might as well call it -10.
Well, so I like San Fran because I mean, a lot of the historical data that I mentioned previously doesn't necessarily always favor the teams on the road, but in the playoffs, Kyle Shanahan is 7-0 straight up, 6-1 against the spread in the first 2 rounds. Purdy playing in Seattle, 4-0. Meanwhile, for the Seahawks, the defense is spectacular. Darnold is a 6-point favorite, is 13-0 straight up, 10-3 against the spread. But when you look at the Seattle team, they were favored by more than 7 5 times this year, and the teams that they faced were the Saints, the Cardinals, the Titans, the Vikings, and the Colts, which the quarterbacks that they faced in those games were Spencer Rattler, Jacoby Brissett, Cam Ward, Max Brosmer, and Phillip Rivers. And they covered the spread in 4 out of the 5. Shout out Phillip Rivers there. But so like you look at this team, and it's a team that when they've been expected to do well, it's been against bad teams. And I know they've in their most recent matchup, San Fran was shut down pretty decently. But Kyle Shanahan is still the mastermind of the NFL, and he's got the playoff history behind him. Even though San Fran's pressure rate is in the bottom third of the league, I think that a 7 point line is big. I was backing a Rams minus 10.5 last week, and I said that I'm not going to be the biggest fans of these larger spreads, and I'm staying true to that, and I'm taking my GOAT Kyle Shanahan.
I cannot. Uh, as much as I do love this whole 49ers train, and I was very happy that we were right last week about them being the Eagles. Fuck the Eagles. Sorry, you can bleep that. I'm rolling with the 1 seed. I have to here, and these two teams played last week of the season. It was for the division. It was for Seattle to clinch the 1 seed, so everybody played. And I mean, Seattle looked good. I mean, that defense, they held San Fran to only 3 points. They won by 10. It was a 13-3 game. I mean, that Charbonnet touchdown was the only touchdown scored of the game, and that happened in the first few drives. But I mean, Purdy, 19 for 17. He only had 127 yards passing. His yards per attempt was under 5. So he really wasn't airing the ball out. And Seattle had that dual threat of running back. I mean, Charbonnet had 17 carries, Ken Walker 16 carries. Neither of them rushed for 100 on the ground, but still their yards per carry were both around 5. That San Fran defense, man. I mean, it's been difficult, and they allowed Devonta Smith last week. I know Brooklyn had his under in a prop. I mean, as bad as that offense looked for Philly, there were some holes that they were able to capitalize in. And when you have the leading receiver in the league on your team in JSN, that's going to be a problem. And not to mention they have Rashid Shaheed, who's been quiet after getting acquired by there, but he's still that deep bomb threat and also that special teams threat. Um, I like Seattle. I like the playoff atmosphere in Seattle. I think it's going to be tough for them. And they went on the road in San Fran, fully healthy, played their starters, and only let them score 3. CMC is going to be the focal point of that offense now that Kittle's gone. This defense, their pressure rate is insane. So I'm liking Seattle. Even if Darnold has a tough game, I think this defense is good enough to where it keeps him above 7.
Yeah. A lot about, I know minus 10.5 is something that we took or that Nico took for his play of the week last week. But that was kind of a Rams defense going against, a team on like Rams being on the road. Now Seattle with that defense, and yeah, I know the Rams defense was highly regarded, but Seattle's defense has been something that time and time again has kind of been something that shows up on a weekly basis. Playing at home in a playoff atmosphere, you're like, yeah, I can't really discount what that defense is going to be. Or what that defense is capable of. I think that, for a team like the Seahawks, they're not saying that their defense is better than their offense because obviously JSN has been a monster all season. But in many ways, that defense keeps most teams completely at bay. They shut down Purdy and only allowed that 49ers running room to sub 60 rushing yards, right? And you got McCaffrey on the other side of that ball. So that's a very difficult task. Um, they kind of found the blueprint right there on how to shut down the Niners. And without Kittle, it's just that much more difficult. So with that being said, my prop is actually gonna target a 49er. I'm gonna go for a CMC over a 42.5 receiving yards. Obviously, there are gonna be a lot of things in question here coming into this game. How exactly is that passing game gonna work now without Kittle, that big target being just being gone, and with Seattle's shutdown defense, it's going to come to me in the form of a lot of Brock Purdy short throws to McCaffrey, maybe not midfield, but maybe 5-yard throws, picking up some chunk yardage there. 42.5 is a line that I'm overall not too worried about. CMC on average he gets a decent amount of love in the pass game. He'll see some receptions, some of them relatively short, maybe 3 or 4 yards. But nevertheless, that starts to add up. He's had some monstrous games too through the season. A couple games where he broke over 60, 70, 80, 90 for a running back. That's just stuff that you don't typically see from a lot of guys, and especially Christian McCaffrey. That's a guy who's going to get done either on the ground or through the air or through both. So CMC over 42.5, no Kittle. That's my play.
Like it. My play, I'm going with the Seahawk, going with JSN over 6.5 receptions, minus 116 on DraftKings. He's hit this line 70% this season. Niners are ranked 23rd against wide receivers this season. Overall, they've been pretty lacking in the secondary. It's been pretty tough. And we saw Devonta Smith last game. I mean, JSN, obviously, he's going to be the main focal point for this defense. But regardless, I think whether it's deep bombs or short yardage, he's going to get his targets. I mean, he's the wide receiver one for a reason. I think he covers this.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as Brooklyn. No George Kittle. I think those yards have to go somewhere, and I'm taking Juwan Jennings to get a little bit more than normal. Well, I say that as I technically, his line's at 42.5, and instead of that, I took 40 plus. That's at minus 126 on DK, but hit 9 out of 16 games this year, and again, without George Kittle in the lineup, I just think that there is going to be some targets, and I hope McCaffrey gets his eats, but at the same time, Juwan, he could do that literally on one play, as long as he's not the one throwing the 40-yard touchdown. Because he did that last
happening
week.
in any. Oh my god, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this will be an interesting game. I don't see if the Niners put up the same volume against a stout defense like Seattle. But I don't know if Darnold necessarily is that kind of quarterback. But I hope he is, because we're going to cover that -7. We are going to cover that -7.
We are going to cover -7.
That's where I'm on the I'm on the Niners to cover at +7, but I'm not confident. Like last week, I took the Niners outright as a money line. I know on the spreadsheet we took them as a spread, but I bet their money line straight out. If I place this bet, it's not going to be Niners money line. I think there's still a very realistic chance they lose, but I think 7's just a pretty steep number.
Yeah, playoffs you kind of can't trust much over that number, but I'm comfortable taking it right at that 7 mark based off what we saw in Week 18. We move on to Sunday. Houston travels to New England in a game where I think that this spread is a little disrespectful to the Patriots, in my opinion. I mean, I get you're going against one of the scariest, if not the scariest, defenses in the league, but maybe probably the scariest D line overall. But what the hell did we just see from C.J. Stroud against the Seahawks? You can say all you want for his passing yards and the fact that Christian Kirk still had 144 receiving yards and a touchdown, but like they didn't win that game because of Stroud in any way. And matter of fact, like that's so concerning if I'm a Texans fan. Like that's the guy who I got man in my offense, and that's how he shows up in the playoffs. Nico Collins obviously getting a pretty brutal concussion. If anyone saw that play, went head first into the turf and then just bobbled it off there again. And obviously he was having a rough game already. Unfortunate for them, they're not going to have their top piece there. But Jaden Higgins, guys who have stepped up, they've had some pieces who kind of just have taken the place of key offensive players when they've needed it. But nevertheless, you don't really think of the Texans and you think, man, that offense is good. It's always that defense. Over under of this game now set at a 40.5. When I look at this game, I kind of look at a couple things. How Drake May just played against a Chargers defense that is very good, and also how the defense has played against the Chargers offensive line that isn't good, and how much more limited the Patriots kind of seemed in that game. And I know they kind of broke away late, but you didn't really see the normal volume that you might expect out of a guy who's being called the potential MVP, and obviously to be expected to an extent. Chargers have a very good defense, but I was a little shocked at how not how little of a fight, but kind of how much less scoring there was from that Patriots team. So, I'm curious to see what you guys think here on the spreadsheet. We all lean New England -3, and while I think the Texans are the defense to be afraid of in the AFC, I don't think that Houston offense can really produce, especially without Nico Collins, against the Patriots defense that consistently has most of the time throughout the season.
You have to take into account also, and I'm not trying to make excuses here, but Drake May, first career playoff game. Mike Vrabel, first career playoff game with New England. This is a whole different team. So they did start slow, and it was, I mean, Chargers defense really did show up for that first half. I mean, that that first few drives when Drake May threw that tipped interception, I was like, oh, here we go. But I mean, that defense showed up. Them only being able, not even converting after that pick, turning the ball over on downs. I mean, that defense showed up. Houston, I mean, yeah, they kind of go off on your point with that offense. Like, look, if you look at the box score itself, it looked like this Houston offense looked great, but it was ugly to watch. It was really bad. But some few quick historical facts. Patriots, Houston, they have some history with each other, especially in the playoffs. Pats are 2-0 against Houston in the postseason. Last time they faced each other was 2017. Brock Osweiler was the starting quarterback for the Texans back then, for context. Texans were 0-7 at Gillette before 2024. So they never won a game in Gillette. The last time that they did, it was, I believe, Brissett was the starter May's rookie year. It was going into that year. So we were still pretty bad. They had 24 unanswered points against the Steelers. 2 of those scores coming defensively. 8 tackles for loss. Uh, Houston Texans, they're the second best press coverage rate in the league, according to PFF, right behind Cleveland at a score of 88. So, I mean, the receivers are going to have a hard time getting open, but when you have guys like Kayshon Boutte, Stephon Diggs, who have really stepped up, I'm not worried about that. Also, this offense, 29th in red zone scoring percentage, 47%. So they're under a 50% chance to score a touchdown when they get within the red zone. So I think Patriots odds, especially in this defensive side, with how they've looked, they were able to shut down Justin Herbert in that offense. And not only that, like the receivers, they didn't look great. Ladd looked bad. QJ didn't look good. They just couldn't get open. I mean, Gonzo had a great game. He was dealing with concussion protocol, but he was full go today. So, I mean, if that defense is fully healthy, I think Patriots have a good chance and a good factor just of how lacking this Houston offense has been. And their run game's not great. I love the Pats in this spot. I don't think this line is necessarily disrespectful in their regard. I think it's more so telling how good this Texas defense really is.
Yeah, no, I know like I am on New England's side here, but I don't want to shit on Stroud too much for the sense of like he's got one of the worst O lines in the league. Nico Collins goes down early, so his wide receiver room does turn into what many people call Christian Kirk as a washed wide receiver, and 2 rookie wide receivers with a tight end room of Dalton Schultz, a running back room of Nick Chubb and Woody Marks. Like offensively, there's not many explosive players out on this field right now. So the struggles for Stroud, they make sense, but it's kind of similar to the Broncos where you have like even like an average, slightly below average offense. Like the defense can work with that, and that's exactly what you saw against Pittsburgh. Whereas the Patriots, I mean, let's not act like this New England team is not nothing. I mean, Drake May, as the streets call him. When he's favored by -3 or more, he's 11-0 straight up, 9-2 against the spread. He's also 9th in the league in total pressures faced, so it's not like he hasn't seen such a crazy D line this season. Number 1 in passer rating and QBR throughout the regular season, like as in the race for the MVP. So yeah, I think it is going to be a tough defense, but if it ends up being, who you need a score out there, I don't know if this Texans team really can deliver. So I think the line is maybe a little disrespectful to New England, maybe 4.5. It would make me think a little bit differently, but no, I really like -3.
Well, right now I think it has moved up to 3.5, and I don't know if that sways your opinion at the moment, but to me, I still think the Pats can probably win this by a field goal, maybe a little bit more. But nevertheless, a pivotal game, 2 pivotal games in the AFC that won't obviously pivotal, but 2 really coin flips in my opinion. Two good offenses going against 2 of the best defenses you could have. When I was talking trash about CJ Stroud, I was talking more about the fact his ball security. You saw those 2 fumbles he had and it just looked bad. And who knows what goes wrong in that situation if it's the center snap or whatever. But nevertheless, moving on to my prop to watch here for this week, gonna go with a Woody Marks under. Last week I staked actually in a regular parlay. I took his over on carries. This time I'm gonna go his under. I think that the Pats are probably gonna get ahead at some point. I don't think it's gonna be necessarily like let's try to drain clock if I'm the Texans. I think Woody Marks isn't gonna see nearly as much volume in the run game. And even with Nico Collins out, I think the Texans are gonna be forced to kind of throw the ball a little bit more. And CJ's not really afraid to throw it. But I can't see that the run game being that efficient, and I'm gonna give that right over to Nico because it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, you're fading the carry amount. I'm fading the rushing yards. Line was at when I started my notes, it was at 59, and then I refreshed the page and went down to 56.5. And I still take it 56.5. When the Pats have had Milton Williams, 56.5 is covered 11 out of 13 games. And talking about the lead rusher of the team, not total rushing yards, but lead rusher of the team finishing with under 56.5 rushing yards. The 2 times that it did hit, they finished with 58. So pretty close line there, but Milton Williams, you saw the impact he made last week, and same terminology with Brooklyn there. I think that Texans are going to be playing from behind, and they're not going to have as many opportunities to run the ball.
Rolling with the Patriot here. I'm going with Ramondre Stevenson over 20.5 receiving yards. kind of a little weird pick, but I mean, you saw him utilized a lot last week in the Chargers. More in the receiving game, more of a dump offs. I mean, he had like 140, 150 yards of scrimmage total. He had like 60, 70 receiving yards. Um, but I see this Houston Texans defense, especially this D line, getting pressure to May pretty quickly. And if May's not, trying to scramble out of the pocket, I see a lot more dump offs to Ramondre to happen. And it kind of seems like Rabel's running with more of the dual set running back with Travion and Ramondre, rather than just kind of overload one necessarily than the other. So I think Ramondre is going to get enough chances out there to hit this line. It just depends on if he's going to have a good day rushing the ball or if they're going to utilize him a little more and trying to space out.
And there we go. We move from the 3 o'clock game on Sunday. Very weird time to have that, to another weird, like you could call it prime time on Sunday evening. Waited all day for dinner. 6:30. The Rams traveling over to Chicago to take the Bears on in Soldier Field. Bears right now at a +3.5 spread, and coming off a game where once again we're gonna go back to the Caleb Williams-esque plays. Caleb Williams somehow pulling off a win there at the skin of his teeth against Brandon McManus, I guess, is the reason why the Packers lost that game, right? So RIP the Packers, RIP, any Packers fans my Packer fan friend that I know, he wasn't too happy after that game. I remember that. But looking at the Rams side of things, Stafford logging a full practice today. But honestly, that defense has been very concerning in my opinion. I think not even just last week, but for the last 5 games, maybe more than 5 games, they have not looked nearly as sharp, in my opinion. There's been a lot of points on the board from opposing teams. Go for it.
I have it in the file here. It's a good time to shout it out. But in the last 5 games, the Rams are averaging 30 points per game let up. So pretty ugly.
Yeah. And to me, like that, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of talent on that defense, and we saw, was in Kobe Durant, the guy. It's just he was a guy who got a couple big penalties thrown on him in that Panthers game, and it just hasn't nearly been as sharp of a Rams defense that we kind of saw midway through the season. And to me, like, it doesn't really necessarily worry me against a team like the Bears. I think, like, we touched upon it earlier, that the Caleb doesn't have like the greatest offensive, wide receiver or receiving room. Colson Loveland's been great for them so far, and DJ Moore shows up sometimes. Odunze is either a factor or an absolute non-factor. Luther Burden sometimes has his moments, but it's really all by Caleb getting some crazy luck, and also in that run game, that 1-2 punch with Swift and Monungai. So when I'm looking at this game at +3.5 for the Bears, I gotta think that I think the Rams can pull this one off by a touchdown. Right now, though, Nico is the only one staying with the Bears here +3.5. I don't hate it, man. I mean, I love watching the Bears. I think they're one of the most entertaining teams to watch because every one of their games literally comes down to that last, what is Caleb Williams going to do here, or some game deciding decision. So I'm going to go to you, Nico, for this one. I want to hear your input on why you think the Bears cover +3.5.
There's like, when you look at this Rams team, and I've been high on them all year, and they're still, I still last episode said that this is my team to win the Super Bowl, but you have seen that defense really get picked apart, and it's that secondary that really is not they've been their weak point, and it's really starting to show. And statistically, again, being back-to-back games on the road, you're facing a home, the Chicago, the weather's going to be, it's not going to be the nicest game. 15 degrees, 10 plus mile per hour winds, which I think that does favor Chicago in ways, as crazy as that sounds. But Chicago excels at, on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that, when you have Caleb at the helm, I think he is going to be able to extend the play a little bit more. But I think that this game's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to be whoever has the ball last. And if it's going to come down to a field goal, I think that the Bears definitely cover in that way. So historically, Stafford has not played well on the not just on the road, but specifically in like colder temperatures. Being a dome guy, I know he's got a sub 500 record outside of domes. So I think my perfect storm, so to speak, with how the weather's being for this game is that I think we're going to see the Rams and Bears offenses kind of go tit for tat. And it's going to come down to who's got the ball with, 2 minutes left on the clock.
I agree that it's going to go tit for tat. But
you don't like that. You don't like that tit for tat?
That was a little cringe.
Oh,
Um, but
give me a synonym. I didn't know what to say.
but just some quick Bears facts. This defense, they allow an average of 3 touchdowns a game. So that's already 21 points on the board. And they're going up against statistically the number one offense in the league, both passing yards, yards per carry, yards per average. And they're the 12th worst graded team in coverage for defense, according to PFF.
22
So going up,
turnovers in the regular season.
I understand. I mean, it's good, but when you're going up against Puka Nakua, I mean, there's some concerns there when your coverage is being graded that badly. Not necessarily saying that this Bears team is bad. I'm just saying I think this Rams offense, especially with how they've looked the last few weeks, they're still dominant. And, I think with the performance last week, almost getting embarrassed by the Carolina Panthers, I think there's some fire under Matt Stafford. I mean, he's probably got like maybe 1, 2 good years left. So, I mean, for him, he kind of has a lot to prove. And some also quick stats. Stafford, this is his 23rd career game against the Bears, all time. I mean, if you all those years in Detroit, the last time that they played each other, I'm pretty sure was last year, 2024, or excuse me, almost 2 years ago now. Weird, new year, keep forgetting it. But I just like the Rams in this spot. Um, Favorites on the road, -3.5. I think with how good this offense still is and still can be against a defense that lets up as many points as they do, I think there's a chance for them to cover over 3.5. And I know Caleb Williams has had a great year, but I think at the end of the day, I think Matt Stafford gets the job done in Chicago.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of lean too much with the Bears in this one. I think that each one of their games gets decided by like what Caleb Williams can do, and I don't think when you're going against a seasoned veteran like Stafford that with his pace of play and how the volume of which the Rams can put up points is going to be something that necessarily Chicago might be able to continue to play on with here, especially as we get deeper into the playoffs. These games have much more meaning to them. And with that being said, I'm going to move to my prop to watch here. Going to be a Stafford over in passing completions, currently at 22.5, -120 odds. Matt Stafford's guy averages around 23 and just overall per game. And this isn't a mark this is a mark he's crossed plenty of times this season, just in his last 5. Going against Carolina alone, 24, 25 against the Cardinals. One a little bit under on the Falcons game. We all saw that. Overtime thriller against Seattle, logged 29, and Detroit 24. The Rams, when you have Stafford as your quarterback, you're not going to spare any chance to try to air the ball out every now and then. And you're going to have him using his arm a lot. So not too worried, against the Bears defense that doesn't necessarily rank as one of the tougher ones to play. That Stafford might be able to find a lot of holes in that offense, or sorry, in that defense.
Yeah, and then I had a kicking prop last week, and I'm gonna keep it going here. I'm taking Cairo Santos over 6.5 kicking points. It's at -118 on DK. In his 15 games played this year, that's hit 11 of the 15. 2 of those games, sitting at 6 kicking points. But yeah, you're talking about the highest. I mean, granted, the weather's not gonna be the nicest, but highest total out of the 4 games that we've talked about that are going to be happening this weekend. And yeah, I don't think the Bears are going to have problems getting to the other side of the field. But, kick a couple field goals and an extra point, and we're cooking.
I like it. I like it. I'm going with the Ram. Kyron Williams over rushing and receiving at 76.5, -110 on DraftKings. Looking at the stats now, Bears rank 29th against running backs. In his last 10, he's averaged 85. And he almost hit this line last week. He hit 75 rushing and receiving against Carolina, who's pretty good defensively. They had a pretty good showing. Just with how much the Bears defense gives up points, also, necessarily through the air. I mean, Kyron Williams is utilized a lot in the screen game. I like this line. I think his line is pretty short, especially for rushing and receiving. I think he could hit this line alone on rushing. But yeah, going with that. Going with the over.
And with that being said, we wrap up another week of spread picks, talking about these games coming up. I think Buffalo Denver being crowned America's game of the week, very much so for, I think, good reason. That's absolutely the one I think that is the most 50-50 out of all of these. Just to recap on our spread picks here, all 3 of us riding here, Buffalo +1.5. Honestly, I think we're pretty much kind of taking them to win at that point. Going on to San Francisco, Seattle. Nico going San Francisco +7. Nick and I ride in San Francisco to win by the 7 or more. Houston, New
You mean
England.
Seattle?
Sorry, yes, Seattle -7 or more. New England, all three of us ride in the -3 there for the Pats. And then going down to Chicago, Nick and I going with the -3.5 for the Rams, and then Nico staying with the Bears for a +3.5. Real quick before we move on to our next segment, I just gotta say this, man, before these games play out, and I think for Pats fans, it probably goes the same way. Should Buffalo possibly ever lose this game this upcoming Saturday, I would so much rather see the Broncos make it to the Super Bowl than any team in the AFC right now.
Spoken like a
Bills fan,
true
as a New
Bills
York
fan.
fan,
Spoken like a
as a Bills fan, as a New
non-biased
York fan,
sports
I would
fan.
absolutely hate to see the Pats make it again.
I would rather see Buffalo make the Super Bowl than Denver, and I'm a Pats fan. But I just do it for the love of the game.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like if the Pats do, if it becomes a Buffalo New England AFC Championship, which is what we're projecting. One, that's incredible pod content, but two, it's gonna be hard for me not to lose to Josh Allen and then see him in the Super Bowl. It's really gonna depend who we're seeing on the other side. Like if it's Seattle and it's Sam Darnold, like yeah, both Josh Allen and Sam Darnold don't have a ring, but I think the narrative is a little bit cooler for Darnold, especially after stinging the Pats.
Getting a ring would be so funny.
But no, it's cool. I think I was looking on DK and they said that the current bet that you can make is for a team that's never won the Super Bowl to win the Super Bowl this year, and it's +340 if you want to say yes, which that only puts you with the Bills and the Texans.
It's crazy. I mean, I personally don't think the Texans deserve to see the Super Bowl with that roster.
They could.
I think the defense is great, but I don't think they deserve to be there. If anything, I think the Pats have the most realistic chance outside of maybe Buffalo if we can clear Denver. Buffalo versus New England next round will be an absolute hell of a game. But the Bills fan and the New York fan in me of the Boston and Massachusetts sports hater has to kind of go against the Pats for the rest of the postseason.
We're not that terrible.
Non-biased, whether it's New England or Houston, I think I take either one. If the next round is Buffalo versus one of those two, I'm taking one of the other two. I think Houston does take a second round against Buffalo.
Alrighty, quick cut here. That's all we got for this week's episode. Going into the divisional round. Again, a lot of us all three of us riding the Bills here. We do have the Seahawks, Nick and I going for the -7, while Nico staying for the Niners +7. All three of us on New England -3. We go to Soldier Field for the 6:30 primetime game. Nick and I on the Rams -3.5, with Nico staying with the Bears +3.5. As always, social is going to be on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Apple Podcasts, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. We're on episode 16.
I don't use Apple, man, but always same handles as always at @_pod. As always, we hope you guys make some money this week, and I think with us being on some of the same picks, we should walk out a little green in our pockets there. But other than that, that is all I got for you guys. That's all we got for you guys. Have a great divisional weekend, and we'll see you guys later. This part's hard, man. It's almost like doing the pre-Instagram story thing for TV.
You're just thinking too much. It's easier when you just when you just start going and you start.
Let it flow.
How's life? I miss golf.
We never actually talked about golf.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. That's already fucked it up. All right, just let it flow. Let it flow.